If you've seen my GTX 660 video, you know that I did that one kinda as a response to a budget builds video, where his results in Linux were pretty awful using a slightly more modern GTX 745. This time, I got hold of an actual GTX 745 as well. Let's see how that one does in the benchmarks after the intro. This card has 4GB of GDDR3 on board, which is more but slower memory compared to the GTX 660. On the other hand, this card has Vulkan 1.4 support, which should make it less problematic in Linux. It's also supported by modern drivers, namely version 582 in Windows, which was released in January, and driver 580.126.18 on Linux, released in February this year. This GTX 745 is a low-profile OEM card, as I believe most of them are. I don't have a low-profile system to run it in, so I'm going to use the same system I used to test the 660. I will need to remove the low-profile plate to fit it in. Yeah, this is fine. This PC was upgraded with an AMD A8 CPU and 16GB of DDR3 memory recently. Big power! Right, the benchmarks. Let's get to it. We'll do Linux first. Let's start off with Dredge. At 1080p, this one averages at 69 FPS and 1% lows down to 57 FPS, which seems decent enough. Black Mesa at 1080p and low settings is showing an average of 50 FPS in this scene, with 1% lows down to 28 FPS. TMNT Splintered Fate at 1080p, a mere 30 FPS with 1% lows down to 13 FPS. Doom 2016 at 720p and medium settings. Low 30s to low 40s. Not a great experience. What the? How'd I do this? Did I encounter a bug or is this some weird secret? Well, now we know how this part of the level looks like from underneath. Euro Truck Simulator at 1080p medium settings. Well, a nice mid-40s frame rate. But 1% lows are less than half of that. Oh, that's a nice car. Would be a shame if something happened to it. Borderlands 2, 1080p and these settings. 39 FPS average with 1% lows down by a lot. It's hard to control like this. WRC7 at 1080p low settings, a relatively stable high 30s frame rate with 1% lows just a few frames less. Setting it to 720p makes it a far greater experience though, with frame rates around 60 FPS. I guess I could use some practice though. Counter-Strike 2 at 1080p and the medium preset. Some mid-20s with 1% lows down to single digits. You Suck at Parking, 1080p and the standard preset. A very nice mid-70s with 1% lows into the mid-50s. Not bad at all, especially given the horrible performance I got in this game on the GTX 660. This GTX 745 is much more low-end than that one. So how does this compare to Windows performance? The same games, same presets. Dredge does quite a lot better on Windows, with 95 FPS average and 1% lows being higher than the average frame rate on Linux. Black Mesa also doing a lot better here with an average of 72 in this scene and 1% lows at 56 FPS. Again, the lows are higher than the average on Linux. Interestingly, this game can be ran with DXVK on Windows as well, which absolutely tanks performance on this card. Way worse than Linux performance with that same backend. Interesting. TMNT does better on Windows as well, averaging in the mid-40s. The lows are also better, but not by as much, with some 17 FPS. Even Doom 2016 runs better, which is usually not the case. Some 47 FPS average and 1% lows at 37 is just a tad higher compared to Linux. Euro Truck Simulator 2 gives me some 56 FPS, with the lows being hardly any lower. Oops, sorry. Borderlands 2, mid-50s with lows down to 40 FPS. Again, a lot better. WRC7 is doing some mid-40s at 1080p. And when we drop it to 720p again, we're seeing some 70 FPS with lows just over 50. Again, a tad better than it was on Linux. Damn it! Counter-Strike 2, 35-ish FPS, with 1% low still in the mid-20s. A lot more playable on Windows. You suck at parking. 95 with lows down to 65 FPS? It already ran great on Linux, but this is even better. I guess we've established that at least older NVIDIA GPUs run better on Windows than they do on Linux. In this case, the performance on Linux is mostly okay, but it's still better to run it on Windows if you want a game. That's about it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.